Damos cursos en Bar-Ilan y queremos compartirles un video de cómo se están llevando las cosas a cabo.
No, que si ella no te oye.
No.
Is now.
Bienvenidos. Para nosotros es un gran orgullo poder compartir con ustedes la conferencia del día de hoy. Agradezco profundamente a todas las instituciones de la comunidad que quincena con quincena nos apoyan en la difusión de estas conferencias. Y aunque estamos viviendo como humanidad un momento complicado, pues en Bar-Ilan no paramos de trabajar, de investigar y de descubrir y compartir con el mundo cosas increíbles. Quiero agradecer profundamente Profesor Lior Elbaz. Thank you very much for being here with us today. Nos acompaña también el ingeniero Nathan Feldman, presidente de Amigos de Bar-Ilan, México, Nati Glikin, de la Oficina Internacional de la Universidad, y Ariel Elstein, un querido y cercano amigo de Bar-Ilan en México. Les pido por favor que presente al profesor. Gracias y bienvenidos.
Muchas gracias, Nelly. Muchas gracias a Bar-Ilan, a todas las personas que nos acompañan, amigos muy queridos como don Leopoldo Hirschon y otros amigos. Me permito presentar al profesor Lior Elbaz. Lo haré en inglés para todos ustedes. Realizing the dream of hydrogen economy, considered one of Israel's most promising young researchers, Professor Lior Elbaz is currently the head of the Israeli Fuel Cells Consortium, the director of 12 different research labs across Israel, and the official Israeli representative to the International Energy Agency's Executive Committee for Advanced Fuel Cells. He is currently developing fuel cells for both the Israeli Defense Forces and for industry for use in long-range ground vehicles, boats, submarines, and drones, and is involved in a drone project initiated by the Israeli Directorate of Defense Research and Development to increase the IDF's reach. He has been introducing the use of advanced materials and molecular catalysts into fuel cells, making them more durable and efficient. Professor Elbaz is involved in outreach activities to Israel youth, industry, and policymakers to promote sustainable energy sources. Es para mí un privilegio, it's for me an honor, Professor Elbaz, to have you with us, and we're ready to listen to your very interesting presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ariel. So I'm gonna share my screen now. This is here with me. Okay, so can you see? Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Good. So as Ari presented, I'm going to talk about hydrogen economy and realizing this dream of having a hydrogen economy throughout the world. But before I begin, I'd like to give you a few more details from my background. One of the most important one, I guess, is why am I in Bar-Ilan? So I did all my degrees in Ben Gurion University. I'm a chemical engineer. My father is a chemical engineer. I'm the fifth in the family who is a chemical engineer. We all went to the same school. And after finishing my PhD, I said I wanted to specialize in fuel cells and hydrogen. And I went to the best lab in the world to do this. This is the Los Alamos National Lab. So for those of you who don't know this lab, just the glitch in the system. Yeah. For some reason, the slides are not passing. Can you see the slides?
Yes, the first one.
No, not, okay, now. Okay, so Los Alamos, for those of you who are old enough, you may remember the Manhattan Project. The Manhattan Project was the project that started in the US, basically to develop the atomic bomb and try to finish World War II. So this project was done here in Los Alamos, where I stay today also. And this town has been a secret town up until the 60s. Since then, it's been flourishing. There's still lots of weapons program in town, but there's lots of also alternative energy projects. That one of them is the one that brought me here, and I'm here now on a sabbatical. So I've been here. 10 years ago, I came for 4 years, and now just recently came back for a year of sabbatical. So you can see the town. We're not too far away from Mexico City, definitely closer than Israel. So we're about 2,500 kilometers from Mexico City. And there's great science being done here. There are about 12,000 researchers working in the lab. This is still one of the most secret labs in the US, somewhere in the mountains of New Mexico. Okay, so let's jump and start talking about what I do. So I'd like to start with a short motivation. It's not a short motivation, but it's a good motivation. So this is the temperature gradient in the world, and as time goes by, we see how this world is warming up. I remember as a child in Israel, I would feel 4 distinct seasons. Nowadays, it's all just warm and humid. We don't longer feel the winter. It's hard to feel the seasons. Things are changing around us, and we can debate if this is a normal cycle of this planet or if this is man-made. But we can agree on one thing: we are contributing quite a bit to this effect, global warming. So this is a movie. Lower the volume a little bit. This is a movie by the UN on global warming, trying to basically create public opinion and make people think about what we're doing and make us plan ahead. So I'll let you watch this and then continue. So the countries of this world decided to join hands and basically try to fight the climate changes. This has started in the Paris Agreement in 2015, where they decided to keep the global warming below 2 degrees Celsius. It was reinstated not too long ago in Madrid. Unfortunately, some countries, one of them is the US, decided not to join or to leave this agreement. But still, the major countries, mostly in Europe, are still fully obligated to try to fight global warming. And we now all understand that we must change the way we produce and use energy. The positive side is that we have quite a bit of energy in this world. We have lots of wind, we have lots of sun. These are enough to sustain our energy needs. The only thing that we need to do is harvest them and store them in the right way. This is a graph from California, and you could see this is you could get online and get these graphs whenever you want on a daily basis. And what you see here is if you follow this line that starts at 6 a.m., you can see that most of the energy in California basically is produced by renewable energy, mostly from the sun. So when the sun is shining, most of the energy in California is produced from alternative sources, sun. And then when it's going down, then we go and use other sources of energy. The biggest one of them is natural gas, but there are also nuclear and others. So the biggest problem today is to basically flatten the line and only use alternative sources, so sun and wind mostly. And the big question today is how do we store large quantities of energy over periods of hours, days, and seasons? Okay, because the sun doesn't shine all day, it doesn't shine in the same for the same amount of day every season, and so on. So we need to find large energy storage technologies. A study in Germany showed that in northern Germany, they could produce more energy than they actually need. And their main problem today is actually storage of energy. Okay, so all the areas here that are colored in negative numbers are showing areas where Germany can produce more than 100% of its energy from clean sources. Okay, so this is important. Now they're trying to figure out a good way to store this extra energy. One way would be mechanical way, basically flowing water to the top of the mountain and then releasing it like a man-made waterfall, and then produce electricity when needed. This has a huge impact on the environment because you need to cut mountains. Plus, it's not very efficient. We'd like it to be more efficient, and then we go to chemistry. In chemistry, we have two solutions. The first one is the one that we all know, batteries. We could always charge and discharge batteries whenever we want, but they're limited. Why are they limited? Because I have this iPhone here. I don't know if you can see it. Okay, so I replace it every 2 years. Why do I replace it every 2 years? Because the battery dies. It's not because of this side, not because of the screen. It's because of the back side. It's the battery. First year I charge it once a day. Second year, twice a day. Third year, I need to go with an infusion of electricity, and charge it all the time. So this is one solution. Another solution is production of hydrogen. So hydrogen could be produced from water, and later I'll show you how we can make energy out of it. This is a simple experiment that students do in high school usually. Splitting water. So you apply some potential, and then on one electrode you would get hydrogen, on the other one you get oxygen. We could use that hydrogen to make energy again, and this is what I'm going to focus on in this talk. But before I do this, there is also an economical motivation for this, and I'll show you. Okay, so in Germany, they basically took the battery solution to the left and the hydrogen solution to the right, and divided into investments that they need to make in their in the country to make these solutions feasible. And they came up with this plot where they show in light blue that they'll need to invest about 40 billion euros in hydrogen infrastructure versus 50 billion euros into battery infrastructure, and that is to in order to support 20 million electric vehicles on the roads in Germany. So for them, economically, the choice was clear. They're going to save 10 billion euros if they're going to go with hydrogen, and this is what they decided to go. So they're working now on what we call hydrogen economy. Hydrogen economy is based on production of hydrogen through alternative sources, solar and wind, what you see here to the left. Excess of energy can go to production of hydrogen, which can later go to different utilities and also to the electricity grid. The biggest one of these utilities would be transportation, which is one of the most polluting applications that we have on Earth. Okay, so this is hydrogen economy, and this is the scheme for hydrogen economy. So the countries of the world are already investing quite a bit in hydrogen economy. The first one was Japan. It started about 10 years ago. In fact, the Olympics that was just canceled, not canceled, but postponed, hopefully, in Japan was in the sign of hydrogen. The Olympic Village was supposed to be operated by hydrogen. Even the Olympic flame was supposed to be lit by hydrogen. South Korea came with this huge amount of money. Look at this, $95 billion into hydrogen economy. So does Japan, which is coming with more and more money. So they just added 7 billion on top of what they already put in. Portugal and other European countries, and also not in Europe. So we see this in Australia and others. But the bottom line is what you see here, 140 billion euros just in Europe for hydrogen economy. Basically, Europe is saying we are going to transform our energy market to clean energy, where we're going to store our excess energy into hydrogen and use it for mainly transportation, but also to other applications. So this is already on the move. We see huge transition in Europe now towards hydrogen economy. It's, as I said, it's already happening in the Far East. So we see Japan and South Korea and others. Also China is joining. So if you haven't seen it in Mexico, and I should say in Mexico, you already have some units, actually Israeli units operating in the Mexico City subway. So this is just an anecdote that the New Mexico City subway has a backup system in case that there is a power outage. The backup system is operating on hydrogen and fuel cells, which are manufactured in Israel. So a company that I work with, Gencel, which is located in Petah Tikva, 5 minutes away from my university, is basically selling backup systems which are based on hydrogen to the New Mexico City. Other big companies are also in the game. We see Saudi Arabia now is putting large solar fields just south of Jordan, not too far from Israel, and they plan to be the biggest exporter of hydrogen. We're seeing more and more trucks and cars being manufactured and shipped. The biggest experiment with trucks, these are the first shipment of trucks which are operated by hydrogen and fuel cells being sent to Switzerland. The total amount that for this experiment is 1,600 trucks in Switzerland. So just to be clear, hydrogen is also electric truck, so it doesn't pollute at all. But it's not a battery, and I'll show you later how it operates. So again, the big companies are all into this. This is a consortium that is between Volvo and Daimler. Again, lots of money is involved. Why is everyone so interested, especially in the transportation industry? This graph would show us what's happening. So if you see here, the straight line is what the European Union allows car manufacturers to, the amount of CO2 that an average car could release in Europe. Okay, this is a straight line. If you're above the line, you're not allowed to sell a car in Europe. If you're below the line, you can sell cars in Europe. Okay, so all car manufacturers need to stay below the line. They can do this with current technologies, but beyond 2025, they don't see how they do this anymore. Okay, so they cannot sell internal combustion engines, so cars that pollute. They cannot sell them anymore in Europe beyond 2025 if this graph doesn't change. Okay, assuming it's not going to change, we all need to shift to cleaner energy. We all need to shift to electric cars or electric transportation in general. And as I said, the best way to do this would be with hydrogen, and you can see this here. So hydrogen, if you look at the full cradle to grave cycle, the least polluting technology would be hydrogen versus batteries. There are also other advantages, as I said. Batteries tend to die after a couple of years, and this is a big investment. For instance, in a Tesla car, the batteries that you have there cost about $20,000. Okay, if you need to exchange them every 3 years, that could be very expensive. Now, as a personal advice to all of you, don't buy a second-hand Tesla, okay? Because you need to pay a big check just to replace the batteries. On the other hand, fuel cells and hydrogen are much more durable and more cost-effective, as we'll see. Today, we're seeing more and more hydrogen filling stations all over Europe. So today in Europe, there are about 120 stations. You come into a regular filling station, you'll find the dispenser for hydrogen, and you can fill up your car. I've been filling up my car while renting it in Germany, a hydrogen car. The price is actually lower than the price of gasoline if you take it per 100 kilometers. So we see more and more people buying those cars, more and more stations popping up, and it looks like a success story. Another advantage over batteries is that if we look at batteries, it takes quite a bit of time to charge them. Filling up a hydrogen-operated car or a fuel cell car is very similar to filling it up with gasoline. Okay, so instead of parking your car for about 45 minutes in a station to charge it, with hydrogen, it takes 4 minutes and we're out. Okay, so this is another advantage. As I said, we're seeing more and more, if you look to the top left, we're seeing more and more stations all over Europe. We're seeing some of them in the US, mostly on the East and West Coast. Many in Japan, South Korea, and now starting in China as well. Okay, so I said the biggest problem today is large energy storage. How do we store large amounts of hydrogen for seasonal use and even beyond 1 day? One of the solutions that is implemented in Europe is to use huge caves that were used to store natural gas. Now they're replacing the natural gas with hydrogen and pumping it into those caves. Another way is to have what you see here in the map, an elaborate system of gas lines, basically transporting hydrogen between countries in Europe, and you could store large amounts of hydrogen in those pipelines. Okay, so large investments. You see, Germany is planning 1,700 kilometers of hydrogen pipelines, and these are huge lines. Okay, the Netherlands wants to be the hydrogen hub. They're producing quite a bit of electricity on wind turbines on their shore. So they would like to sell hydrogen to the rest of Europe. Again, it's already happening. So this is not a dream. These are investments that are already being fulfilled, and we could see this change in Europe. Hopefully we'll see it in the rest of the world. Now the technology that is being used to convert hydrogen back to electricity is called fuel cell. So I'm going to go a little bit of chemistry, but not too much. So how does a fuel cell work? Okay, bear with me. So in a fuel cell, there are three main components: an anode, a cathode, and a membrane. In a battery, we also have the anode and a cathode, and we have some separator. But in a fuel cell, as opposed to batteries, we are constantly flowing hydrogen to the cell and getting oxygen from the air. So basically the chemistry, the chemical that stores the energy is not stored in the device. We store it in a tank, like we store gasoline tank in our car, and we have the engine that uses the gasoline. Okay, so same case here. Hydrogen is reacting on the anode, oxygen is reacting on the cathode. That gives us electricity, and the only byproduct of this reaction is pure water. Okay, so the only thing that we would see coming out from our car is little droplets of water. That's it. No pollution. Okay, so we get clean energy, clean electricity with only water coming out. We've gone a long way in reducing the price of this technology, and we dropped the price significantly to a limit where it's becoming very competitive with the cars that most of us drive today. There is still a slight improvement that we need to do in regard to the price. And that's because we're using lots of platinum in our devices. Okay, so we would like to either replace this platinum or reduce the amount that we use in the fuel cell to further reduce the price of the technology. But we're getting close. In terms of comparison, another comparison to fuel to batteries, we would like to have as much energy as possible in our device. And with fuel cells, we have about 10 times as much energy as we have with the best batteries today. That translates to lower weight and lower volume in the car. So what you see here is a Toyota car. It's called Toyota Mirai, which has a fuel cell system here in the middle and 2 hydrogen tanks on the back. And this is what operates the car. For instance, again, in a comparison to a Tesla, the whole floor is covered by batteries, which I said need to be exchanged and have some issues. I'm going to skip over this one and just going to show you some applications. So fuel cells are now being used, fuel cells and hydrogen are being used now to make power for many of the high-tech companies. So Apple, Google, Vodafone, AT&T, and others are using fuel cells to have a self-sustained hubs. So basically, these are supporting all of their electricity needs. They don't need to connect to the grid anymore in some locations. In Europe, we start seeing trains that operate on hydrogen. We are seeing cars here. I'm here on this car. This is a Honda Clarity. On the top, you can see Toyota Mirai. There are big trucks that are operating now on hydrogen. And on the military side, we have submarines. So all of the Israeli submarines now are operating on hydrogen and fuel cells to a certain point. So, up to a certain point, they operate on diesel, and then when they need to go in a quiet mode, they transfer to electricity, and that would be from hydrogen and fuel cells. We are making drones, and I'll show you a short movie in just a second. We are making drones now for the Israeli Defense Forces in collaboration with a couple of companies in Israel. There are also some backup systems for home, so you could store energy at home. If you had solar panels, you could produce hydrogen at home and then store it at home to support, again, to have a self-sustained household. So this is a drone that was developed in collaboration with a company in Canada. This is actually, so the guy who owns the company is an Israeli guy. This is the name Energía, the name of the company. This drone could fly in the air. What you see here is a fuel cell. On the top, you could see what converts hydrogen into energy. On the bottom, you could see the cylinder that holds hydrogen inside. And this thing could fly for about 4 times as much as the best drone. Now, why is this interesting? Because we would like to deliver packages, we would like to have cameras on them for surveillance and so on. And extending the operational time by more than a factor of 4 is a huge leap forward. Okay, so this company was sold a year ago, almost a year and a half, on May of last year, was sold to Amazon. Amazon wants to basically ship packages. So this is Meir here, you see in the blue shirt. Meir is the CEO of the company. Amazon wants to ship their packages using those drones, and they not invested, but they bought the whole company, and now trying to modify the drones for packages. We continue now with a different company in Israel called Heaven Drones, and they are making specialty drones for the Israeli military. So we're involved in a new project now together with them. Imagine that these drones are not only small ones like the one that you see here, but we're now making with Heaven Drones, we're making drones that are like little ambulances. So a drone that could pick up a person and take it from the location of the incident back to the hospital, all being controlled from far away remotely. Okay, so when looking at this technology, we look at large energy storage, we look at the infrastructure and the cost. The cost of the cars is not tremendously high today, and it's expected to go lower as we shift from building those cars, one by one, like you see here in the pictures to the left, to a mechanized production line. Toyota actually shifted last year from the left to the right now, and we're going to see large-scale production of hydrogen cars and so on. As Aryeh mentioned at the beginning, I'm leading the Israeli consortium, which is basically composed of researchers from 12 different labs in Israel. I could say I had a little chutzpah coming in as a young researcher. I knocked on the Prime Minister's office door and said, we need money to make hydrogen. They sent me back home to the university, and then three months later, they gave me a call and said, Lior, we like your idea, form a consortium, and let's see you make this happen. So we've been working together for 4 years now in this Israeli Fuel Cells Consortium. And the next stage, which we'll see in just a second, is to build an energy center. But before that, I would like to say that we in Bar-Ilan decided to take the inclusive approach rather than the exclusive approach. We know that we're very good, but we also know we understand that there are good people elsewhere. So we're trying to bring people from other universities in consortia to create great things in Israel. We're not saying we're the best. We know we're the best. We don't need to say it. We're not saying we're the best. We're saying we are going to work together to reach our national and even global goals. Okay, so I'll show you a little movie on what we're trying to do now. Let's hope this works well.
At the beginning of the 50s, David Ben-Gurion, our first prime minister, defines 3 challenges that will secure Israel for a long term: security, water, and energy. Energy is still left behind.
The rise in global consumption of energy brought the need to produce energy through alternative sources.
We can definitely electrify Israel by solar power. We have enough area, we have enough sun.
But the biggest challenge today is to store this energy and then produce renewable energy through other sources.
The security of Israel depends on our ability to be sustainable in terms of energy. Luckily, a significant part of the Israeli energy researchers are here at Bar-Ilan.
One of the most innovative ways to address these energy problems is hydrogen economy. For this reason, we established here in Bar-Ilan the Israeli Fuel Cells Consortium. We are now developing fuel cells that could operate ground vehicles, submarines, and boats for the Israeli Defense Forces. We found new ways to make these devices more efficient and durable.
Large energy storage is one of the big challenges that we have today. 9 years ago, we found Israel Research Center for Chemical Propulsion working together on batteries, supercapacitors, and all needs of energy storage. We have very clear success within it, but we go further.
Here at Bar-Ilan, we intend to establish NICE, a new energy center for innovation, research, and development.
It will host entrepreneurs, scientists, and engineers develop alternative energy technologies.
Translate all the academic knowledge in energy into real prototypes and products.
And the idea is Israeli energy industry in which we will be able to produce autonomic energy packages.
NICE aims to be a beacon for the key players in sustainable energy worldwide. We will build here at Bar-Ilan a significant building
that will host new laboratories and equipment that will serve both academia and industry.
We have to be the frontier of instrumentation.
We will bring more and more young researchers that will empower the center as a leading ecosystem in the field of energy. Partner with us and be part of a big change towards Israel's sustainable energy independence.
Okay, so what we're doing is now starting the next stage in what we see. So we're moving from academic consortia to have a building that basically connects both industry and academia. So we are planning to have prototype labs to leverage on the knowledge that we produce in the labs. Instead of just writing patents, we could actually make boxes that work. Okay, so this is a huge leap for us. It's unprecedented for Israeli academia and also in the world to host both academia and industry in one place. We need the first push, and we actually got the first push from the Israeli government. So now we're working closely together with the Prime Minister's office and the Ministry of Energy, which gave us the stamp of a national center. Okay, that was the important thing that we wanted to get from there. They acknowledged us as a national center for sustainable energy, which allows us to bring together, again, members from all Israeli academia under the one roof to make beautiful things. And we are making those beautiful things. So I'd like to thank you for listening. I'll be happy to answer your questions. I'm sorry for the misspelling, but it sounds nice. So be nice. Bar-Ilan, National Institute for Sustainable Energy. This is our mission today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Elbaz. Wonderful presentation for a Sunday morning. I have some questions that I received from some of the people. But before we start with that, I would like to ask you a very serious question. Because you started your presentation showing us the map of Los Alamos. And I wanted to know is there a Starbucks at Los Alamos?
Yes, there is.
Wonderful.
And there is also a very good bagel shop. So you could get bagel.
Okay, because it seems like an isolated place. So I'm happy that at least you can order your morning coffee. Now getting into serious questions, we have one that it's very interesting. It's made by Moshe Podgórsky, and he asks us if this technology of hydrogen cells is cleaner and efficient than the electric, why car factories chose electric vehicles instead of hydrogen? And the question continues, hydrogen is cleaner, why waste 2 or 3 decades on electrical batteries instead of investing this time on renewable energies?
So this is a very good question. The answer for it is just one word: infrastructure. So the infrastructure for batteries already exists. We could charge batteries on a wall socket all the time. So we could start with batteries, and this is what the world and us also car manufacturers are doing. They're using the existing grid for making battery cars. The next stage, as most car manufacturers sees it, beyond 2025, once the infrastructure for hydrogen will be laid out, is to move from batteries to hydrogen. So batteries for now, as most car manufacturers are looking at it, is just the middle stage, the gap between the internal combustion engine, which is polluting, to the hydrogen economy, which is supposed to be the cleanest one.
Okay, thank you very much. This leads us to another very interesting question from Mrs. Flor Feldman, who asks, is hydrogen highly flammable? How is flammability handled in the batteries, especially in the ones inside cars?
So I couldn't say that I didn't expect this question. So we all know, if you look at the slide here, we all know the explosion in the Hindenburg, which there are still lots of unanswered questions about it. But if we look at fuels, we look at this what we call the holy trinity of safety, which is lower flammability limit, diffusion, and buoyancy. It's not important to explain all of them. The important part is to say that as far as you get as far away from the origin of this graph, the better you are in terms of safety. And compared to to all the fuels that we're using today, hydrogen is safer than gasoline or natural gas and others. If this is not convincing enough, then look at this. Okay, so this is an experiment. To the left, look at the top left picture. To the left, there's a car with a hydrogen tank, and next to it, the car with the gasoline tank. In this experiment, they blew up the tank at the same time. The properties of hydrogen, which escapes the incident area very quickly, shows that the car, over time, basically suffers no damage, whereas the car with gasoline in it, I'm sure no one would like to be in it. There was a sad story not too long ago in Israel where a couple of elderly people were traveling between Eilat and Tel Aviv. They had an accident and the gas tank blew up. So they were still alive in the car, but they burned alive in the car. That happened about 3 months ago. This is just a reminder of how gasoline is dangerous. Hydrogen is much more safe.
Thank you very much, Professor Elbaz. Another question: why in countries like Mexico we insist on all types of energy when all the evidence shows that the best way to approach the future is hydrogen and all the renewable energies?
So I'm not a politician, and this is a question for politicians. I think they make those decisions. You could see, I could borrow what we see here in the U.S. Okay, so U.S. is a big producer of oil, and there is a large, high pressure on the government here to sustain the oil industry. So the shift to cleaner energy is very slow because of politics and personal motivation of different politicians. This could change. We see this in California, for instance, where the governors have always said that they're going to shift to cleaner energy, and they're doing this. Okay, so there are states in the U.S. that are doing this. So this is more of a policymakers question rather than what is the right thing to do. We know in all of our countries that there are certain things that could be done much better, but for some reason the politicians are not doing it.
Okay, one last question. Professor Elbaz, you show us the graphics of global warming. How much of the problem is generated by the US and China?
So this is a good question again. So there's a big dispute. What we are suffering from today is what happened in the past. Okay, so these are the implication of the pollution since the Industrial Revolution in the 19th century. Okay, so we've been accumulating lots of gases in our atmosphere, which basically built up this global warming effect. So China now comes and said, listen, we haven't participated in the Industrial Revolution. We just started polluting 30 years ago. So don't blame us for what you're suffering from today. Of course, we're the biggest pollutant today, but we should not pay for what you guys did. So there is always this debate, who's responsible for what? China is definitely the biggest pollutant, but still, what we're suffering from today is not only China's fault.
Okay, and one last comment, Professor Elbaz, before we continue.
I have a comment before you continue, Arjen. My name is Lior, not Professor Elbaz. Okay,
Lior. One last comment. Looking at your presentation, we understand that the world is moving towards an hydrogen economy. So eventually, we will need a lot of umbrellas. So I believe that would be the industry of the future. Do you agree?
Umbrellas? No, it's not going to rain on us. No, it's not going to rain on us. It's people have been using the water to water their garden. I've heard in Korea, but apart from this, no, it's not going to be too wet.
Okay, so on my behalf, Lior, I want to thank you a lot. It has been very, very interesting, and I want to pass the voice to Nelly for the closing remarks and activities. Thank you very much, Lior.
Thank you, Ari.
Thank you, Professor. It has been really a huge pleasure and honor. Congratulations and kol hakavod, really. Thank you. Muchas gracias a todos por acompañarnos. Espero que les haya gustado, que les haya parecido interesante. Les quiero decir que en 15 días tendremos una conferencia muy buena con el profesor Cyril Cohen. Él es un investigador muy joven que está ahorita top en Israel en temas de COVID, dando conferencias a nivel nacional en todos los medios de Israel. No se la pierdan, les comparto más adelante la información. Síganos en redes sociales. Si quieren más información de este tema, búsquenos como Amigos de la Universidad Bar-Ilan en México, y los que tengan mi contacto personal, no duden en acercarse, en escribirme. Los dejo con este video. Muchísimas gracias y feliz domingo. Me parece que hubo un pequeñito problema. Un minutito, por favor.
Our world is intriguing and challenging. It arouses a burning desire to understand its laws, study complex processes, discover and develop new worlds. Research is the key to understanding the world around us, to finding new solutions in wide-ranging fields. Our researchers lead some of the most important studies in Israel and around the world, in science, medicine, humanities, and energy. Learning is how we understand things in depth, discovering new worlds, revealing the secrets of the past and the present for the sake of the future. We unravel the secrets of the human brain, of human behavior, the wisdom of Judaism and heritage, creating exciting new worlds in our laboratories and clinics, impact centers and research institutes. And when we do all this with genuine passion, we earn recognition, respect, and international success. We are world leaders in cyber, in information science, and artificial intelligence. Over the years, we've won awards for research and important discoveries. We're among the academic elite in psychology, engineering, education, and the social sciences. with a spacious, award-winning green campus and 17,000 students from all over Israel and every segment of society. Bar-Ilan University, grooming future generations of academia, leading excellence and trailblazing innovations. We invite you too to explore, discover, and to lead.
Pues con mucho, mucho orgullo me vuelvo a despedir. Bienvenidos y nos vemos la siguiente vez.
Gracias. Nelly, ¿podrías decir dónde